Imagine this. It's almost midnight. You're walking home alone. The streets are empty. No cars. No voices. Only the sound of your own footsteps echoing through the darkness. Everything feels normal, until suddenly, you feel it. A strange sensation crawling across the back of your neck. Feels like someone is watching you. You stop walking. You slowly turn around. Nothing. The street is completely empty. You keep walking again. But that feeling doesn't disappear. In fact, it becomes stronger. Your heart starts beating faster. Every shadow suddenly looks suspicious. Every small sound feels louder than before. The logical part of your brain keeps saying, "There's nobody here." But another part, a much older part, refuses to believe it. Now here's the strange part. This experience is almost universal. Millions of people from completely different cultures, different countries, different religions, different languages, have all reported the exact same feeling. The feeling that someone is watching them, even when nobody is actually there. Why? Is it just imagination? Is your brain malfunctioning? Or is there something much older happening inside your mind? To answer that question, we need to travel back, not hundreds, not thousands, but hundreds of thousands of years. Long before cities existed, long before electricity, long before human civilization, back to a world where darkness wasn't peaceful, it was deadly. Imagine you're an early human. The sun has disappeared below the horizon. The fire in your camp is getting weaker. Around you, the forest becomes silent. And that's exactly what scares you, because silence usually means something is hunting. Your eyes can barely see a few meters ahead. But your ears, your nose, your brain, are working harder than ever. Every tiny movement matters. Every broken branch, every rustling leaf, could mean the difference between surviving or becoming dinner. In today's world, darkness usually means bedtime. Back then, darkness meant uncertainty. And uncertainty killed people. So evolution made a decision that still affects you today. Instead of waiting until danger was confirmed, your brain learned to assume danger first and ask questions later. Think about it. Imagine hearing a noise in the bushes. There are only two possibilities. Option 1, you ignore it. It turns out to be a hungry predator. You die. Option 2, you assume something dangerous is there. You run away. It was only the wind. You survive. Which brain survives longer? The overly cautious one, not the perfectly logical one. Evolution doesn't reward accuracy. It rewards survival. And that's one of the biggest misunderstandings people have about the human brain. Your brain was never designed to show you reality perfectly. It was designed to keep you alive, even if that means lying to you sometimes. This survival system became so successful that it was passed down, generation after generation, for hundreds of thousands of years, until eventually, it reached you. Right now, inside your own skull, you're carrying software that was written for a completely different world. A world filled with predators, unknown dangers, and endless uncertainty, which explains something fascinating. Have you ever noticed how uncomfortable complete silence feels? Many people say they enjoy silence, but complete, absolute silence actually makes people nervous. Your brain expects information. It constantly scans the environment. When it suddenly receives almost nothing, it becomes suspicious. Silence itself becomes information, because throughout human history, silence often came before danger. Even today, many wild animals suddenly become quiet just before a predator attacks. Your brain doesn't consciously know this, but deep inside, ancient survival circuits still remember. This is why many people feel uncomfortable walking through an empty parking lot, an abandoned hallway, or a quiet forest. Not because they actually see danger, but because their brain has switched into survival mode. And once survival mode activates, something incredible begins to happen. Your senses stop working like cameras and start working like detectives. Instead of asking, "What am I seeing?" your brain starts asking, "What could hurt me?" That tiny difference changes everything. Suddenly, a jacket hanging behind a door looks like a person. A shadow looks like a face. A moving curtain looks like someone standing still. Your brain isn't trying to scare you. It's trying to protect you. Because making one false alarm costs almost nothing. Missing one real danger could have cost your ancestors everything. But there's one part of the brain, working behind the scenes, controlling this entire process. A tiny structure, no bigger than an almond, yet powerful enough to make your heart race before you've even realized why. And once you understand what this tiny part of your brain is actually doing, you'll never experience that mysterious feeling the same way again. That tiny structure is called the amygdala. It's one of the oldest survival systems inside the human brain. And unlike the thinking part of your brain, the amygdala doesn't care about facts. It cares about one thing, keeping you alive. Imagine you're walking through a forest. Something suddenly moves beside you. Your body jumps. Your heart explodes. Only a second later, you realize it was just a falling leaf. Have you ever wondered why your body reacted before you even understood what happened? Because your amygdala doesn't wait for proof. It reacts first and verifies later. Scientists sometimes describe this as the brain's fast pathway. Visual information reaches your eyes, and before your conscious mind fully processes the image, a rough version is already sent to the amygdala. This entire process happens in milliseconds, so fast that your body begins preparing for danger before you even know what you're looking at. Your muscles tighten, your breathing changes, your pupils expand, your hearing becomes sharper, your heartbeat increases, your body enters survival mode, all before your logical brain says, "Relax. It's only a shadow." Think about how incredible that is. Your brain has already made a survival decision before you've even finished seeing reality. And surprisingly, this ancient shortcut still saves lives today. Imagine driving a car. A child suddenly runs into the road. You slam the brakes instantly. You didn't calculate. You didn't analyze. You simply reacted. That's your ancient brain, still protecting you. But here's where things become fascinating. Sometimes, that same survival system becomes a little too good. Instead of detecting real danger, it begins detecting possible danger. Your brain would rather make 10 false alarms than miss one real threat. Evolution calls this a successful strategy. Modern humans often call it anxiety. Now think about those moments when you're home alone. The lights are off. You walk past a dark hallway, and for a split second, you feel like someone is standing there. Your logical brain says, "Impossible." But your body freezes anyway. Why? Because your amygdala isn't asking, "Is someone really there?" It's asking, "If someone was there, would I survive?" Those are two completely different questions. And your body always answers the second one first. This is why darkness changes the way we think. During the day, your brain receives enormous amounts of visual information. Colors, faces, objects, movement, everything is clear. But darkness removes certainty. And whenever certainty disappears, your brain fills in the missing pieces. Not with random guesses, but with survival guesses. This ability is called pattern recognition. It's one of the greatest evolutionary advantages humans ever developed. Thousands of years ago, recognizing a hidden predator among bushes could save your life. Recognizing another human face could save your tribe. So your brain became unbelievably good at finding patterns. Sometimes, too good. Have you ever looked at clouds and seen animals? Or looked at the moon and seen a human face? Maybe you've seen faces inside old buildings or strange figures inside tree branches. The objects never changed. Only your brain did. Scientists call this phenomenon pareidolia. Your brain constantly searches for familiar patterns, especially faces, because throughout human evolution, missing a human face could be dangerous. Seeing one that wasn't actually there cost almost nothing. Again, evolution rewarded false positives, not perfect accuracy. And that's why, when you're alone, in the dark, your brain becomes incredibly creative. A coat hanging on a chair becomes a person. A tree becomes a figure watching you. A reflection in a window looks like someone standing behind you. Your conscious mind knows it's impossible. But your survival system isn't interested in logic. It's interested in possibilities. because every possibility could mean survival, and that's why the feeling becomes so real. Not because someone is actually watching you, but because your brain wants you to believe someone might be. Interestingly, researchers have discovered something even stranger. When people are placed in completely silent environments, or isolated for long periods, many begin experiencing the sensation that another presence is nearby. Not because they're hallucinating, but because the brain hates uncertainty. When it lacks enough information, it starts creating possibilities. It's almost like your brain says, I don't have enough evidence, so I'll prepare for the worst anyway. And honestly, from an evolutionary perspective, that's exactly the correct decision. Because every ancestor who ignored possible danger eventually stopped becoming an ancestor. But there's another mystery. If this feeling is simply a survival system, why do so many people describe it in almost the exact same way? Why does it always feel like someone is standing just outside your field of vision? The answer lies in how your brain builds reality itself. And once scientists discovered this, they realized something shocking. That mysterious presence beside you may never have existed at all. It may have been created by your own brain. So, if nobody is actually there, why does the feeling seem so real? Because your brain doesn't experience reality, creates reality. Everything you see, everything you hear, everything you feel, is your brain's best prediction of what's happening around you. Most of the time, that prediction is incredibly accurate. But when information is missing, especially in darkness, your brain starts filling in the blanks. Not randomly, but using millions of years of survival programming. This idea became even more fascinating after a famous neuroscience experiment. Researchers wanted to understand why some people constantly felt like someone was standing behind them. So they built a robotic experiment. Participants wore blindfolds. Every movement they made with one hand was copied by a robot touching their back. At first, the touch happened instantly. Everything felt completely normal. But then, scientists introduced a tiny delay, just a fraction of a second. Almost immediately, many participants reported something shocking. They felt another person was standing behind them. Some even became so frightened, they asked to stop the experiment. But there was never anyone else in the room. Your own brain created the feeling of another presence. This experiment revealed something extraordinary. The mysterious presence wasn't supernatural. It wasn't magic. It wasn't proof that someone was actually there. It was simply the brain struggling to match its predictions with reality. When those predictions became slightly confused, the brain generated the sensation that another person must be nearby. In other words, your brain would rather invent an invisible observer than admit it doesn't fully understand what's happening. That sounds strange, but evolution has always preferred certainty over confusion, because uncertainty can be dangerous. Now think about every horror movie you've ever watched. Notice something? The monster rarely appears immediately. Instead, you hear footsteps. A door slowly opens. A shadow moves. A strange sound echoes through an empty hallway. Your imagination begins working long before the monster appears. Why? Because horror directors aren't actually scaring you. They're allowing your own brain to scare itself. The less information your brain receives, the harder it works. And the harder it works, the more possibilities it creates. That's why what you imagine is often far more terrifying than what you actually see. Your brain is writing its own horror story, using ancient survival instincts as the script. But here's the beautiful part. That same system, the one that sometimes makes you feel watched, is also responsible for many of humanity's greatest achievements. It's why we recognize faces instantly. It's why parents wake up at the smallest sound from their baby. It's why firefighters react before flames spread. It's why athletes respond before they consciously think. It's why you instinctively pull your hand away from something hot. The system isn't broken. It's brilliant. It has protected our species for hundreds of thousands of years. Yes, sometimes it creates false alarms. Sometimes it mistakes shadows for strangers. Sometimes it convinces you that you're not alone. But remember, every false alarm you experience today exists because countless ancestors survived by making the exact same mistake. They survived long enough to pass that brain to you. So, the next time you're walking alone and suddenly feel like someone is watching you, pause for a moment, take a deep breath. Remember what your brain is trying to do. It isn't trying to frighten you. It isn't trying to deceive you. It's doing the only job it has ever known, keeping you alive, even in a world that no longer resembles the one it evolved for. And maybe that's the greatest irony of being human. We carry a brain built for surviving ancient forests, inside a world of streetlights, cities, and locked doors. Yet deep inside, that ancient guardian still whispers the same warning. Be careful. Not because danger is always there, but because, once upon a time, ignoring that feeling could have meant the end of your story. Today, it usually means nothing more than an overprotective brain, doing exactly what evolution designed it to do. So the next time you feel watched while you're completely alone, don't ask, is someone really there? Instead ask, what is my ancient brain trying to protect me from? Because sometimes, the greatest mystery isn't hiding in the darkness. It's hiding inside your own mind, and that ancient mind has been watching over you all along.